Hey guys, welcome back. MTG Noob here, bringing you the blue spoiler slash set review for M13. Alright, without further ado, let's get to some blue cards. Alright, Archaeomancer, you're probably playing it if you have a lot of instants or sorceries. That's, I think, pretty obvious, especially if you have one or two really bomby sorceries. Arctic Aven, yes, play it if you're blue and white. Gaining lifelink and having a 3/2 flyer for 3 is ridiculous. The fact that it's uncommon is very good. If you get multiples of these somehow, drafting or you're sealed, you should probably try to play blue-white and force it. Okay, Arbor of Bolus. You know, it has a added bonus of looking at the top three and revealing an instant or sorcery. Usually when you're at the pre-release, you're not going to have too many instants or sorceries, but it basically lets you draw a card some of the time, and the fact that it has 3 toughness is usually pretty good against a lot of the colors. Battle of Wits, I don't even need to talk about it. It's terrible in sealed. Don't be that funny guy at the pre-release who plays his whole pool and like 150, 160 lands. I mean, sure, you'll have fun and be my guest if you really want to be that guy, but for me, not so much. Clone is always good. It's always nice to target their bomb and have your own bomb, so nothing wrong with that. Courtly Provocateur, I would play it at 3. It's a little expensive. Um, you can end up making things attack you if you have better blocks, and you could force things to block, which is the part I kind of like. Usually, don't get blown out though, because sometimes you'll force something to block thinking you're going to straight trade with it, and then they'll double block. So be careful with that this weekend. Divination, solid card draw. Downpour, I think, is going to be very, very good. You could tap down their blockers and then Alpha Strike, or you can tap down their attackers, and I mean, it just screws with people. Plus, who doesn't like a reindeer drowning? Am I right? Okay. Encrust is totally fine. Enchant artifact or creature. Enchant the permanent doesn't untap during attack. It can't be, but I think it's kind of like claustrophobia, but it also hates on artifacts, which is always nice because there's some decent artifacts in this set. Essence Scatter, if they have a bomb, like a creature you can't handle, you could usually sideboard that in. This is going to be a very creature heavy based set, so I would potentially play it main deck, but usually it never gets the things you want, and you have to kind of play around their bombs. And if you don't see them, you might counter something earlier, and it might not be the thing you want to counter. So keep that in mind if you're playing Essence Scatter. Fairy Invaders 3/3 flash for 5. It flies, you're playing it. A 3/3 flyer for 5 is a little undercosted if you're used to playing like air elementals and things of that nature. But the fact that it flashes itself in and blocks potentially, then swings is always good. Fog Bank 0/2 prevent all combat damage. You might think this is really good, and if they have no way to deal with this guy, he is very good. But if they have something that just kills it straight out or burns it or things of that nature, got to be careful. But it is pretty funny blocking with a wall of fog and watching them sit there and not being able to get through it. But usually those style of decks have ways to get through this. Harbor Serpent looks kind of crappy, but if you're heavy blue, he eventually will become a 5/5. Sometimes it's not on turn 6, but remember that even though it says he can't attack, he's still a decent blocker as a 5/5 for 6, and the island walk is a lot of the times more relevant than you would, but think. I mean, if you play it on turn 6, it's a stalemated board. You have 5 islands. They have an island. They're on a 4-turn clock. Hydro Surge, we'll see play. I think it's an okay combat trick. Plus, it looks like I don't know if you ever watch Pokemon, but Squirtle, when he does his Hydro Blast or whatever, shooting this cat creature thing. So I think it's an okay trick. It's not the greatest. Usually minus their attack is never good, but the fact that this nerfs a big guy is pretty good, but then you still need to be able to kill him. Index, a lot of talk going on with this in standard, kind of like, hey, will it be a mainstay in miracle type decks. I don't really know. The verdict's still out on that one, or the jury, excuse me, is still out on that one. I can say that it's good manipulation, but it doesn't draw you a card. It's no ponder, it's no preordain, it's nothing like that. If you're blue, you play Jace just solely because of the zero ability to put 10 cards into their graveyard. I mean, limited is a 40 card format. So if you get a Jace, you probably play a Jace. Jace's Phantasm is pretty good if your deck is stallish and or millish. A 1/1 flyer is nothing to scoff at, but the fact that it could be a 5/5 flyer is really good, especially if the game goes on and on and on. Kraken Hatchling is usually very fine, especially if you're in a defensive style type of deck. If you're an aggro deck, you're not going to be playing it. Master of the Pearl Trident, 8 Lords in Legacy is going to make Merfolk probably a lot stronger. Usually, when you open this as a rare, at least in my experience, you never end up playing it because there's not any really good Merfolk. He does give other merfolk you control 1/1 an island walk, which is great, but he himself doesn't have island walk. And plus, double blue for a 2/2 isn't fantastic. Okay, here's a 1/1 merfolk. So if you have this and this, okay, now you have two 2/2 merfolks. One has island walk. Is it really that great? I don't know. You be the judge. Mind Sculpt is totally fine. Um, it's actually very good, especially if you can get a bunch of these in like a draft. Um, it's very aggressively costed for a mill card. 7 into the graveyard is very good, and they can't really put as much pressure on. I wouldn't say mill is ever really a viable strategy, but when you have the right cards, it's almost devastating. Negate's always good, especially if they have a spell that you can't count or that you can't deal with, like a giant fireball or something like that. But remember, it doesn't counter creatures. That's very, very important. Omniscience, I can't really say that well. I apologize. You know it's going to be in the show and tell kind of decks, and people are going to try to break it, and it's great for Commander. So if you open it, probably you don't want to trade it for less than 10 bucks. Um, it's not likely that you're going to play it at the pre-release, but at least you'll have a somewhat money card in your, in your collection. Redirect is okay if they have a lot of removal or they have a lot of burn or things of that nature. Um, it's good. It kind of is a combat trick because it targets, and then you kind of change the target and kind of blow them out. But, it usually isn't the greatest of spells in my experience. Rewind is a solid counter. Usually you're not going to play counters unless you're a very heavy blue deck. But it is solid. You pay for it, and then you get to untap, and so you could do things like that. I don't think it's going to have a big impact in standard. Scroll Thief is very good. You got to clear the way for it, but a 1/3 can block, but when it swings, it draws you a card. It allows you to get very far ahead if the coast is clear. It's also a merfolk, so let's keep that in mind if you're a big merfolk guy, and we're hoping for merfolk, Master of the Pearl of Trident this weekend. Okay, sleep. I don't know if you watch wrestling, but GTS, Go to Sleep, CM Punk. I think he put a few horses and elves to sleep. Tap all creatures target player controls. They don't untap on their next turn. It is a sorcery. The fact that you could tap them down and just swing in for the win is just stupid broken. I've played with this card before. It's pretty awesome. So you would definitely want to play that, especially if you're playing blue. Spell Twine, a new card here. Exile target instant or sorcery card from your graveyard and target instant or sorcery card from an opponent's graveyard. Copy those cards, cast those copies if able without paying their mana cost. Exile Spell Twine. So if you have something good in your yard, they have something good in their yard. By turn 6, you're going to be a happy camper. If not, you're probably going to get some value out of this. But, you know, is it worth it? Who the hell knows? I don't think I would run this. If I open this, I'd be a little bit unhappy. I think I'd have to get the format down a little bit better before I know that. Okay, the Sphinx is always good. It does cost a lot, but when it comes into play, it gives you a 5/6 flyer, which is very hard to deal with in this format, and it makes people have a very tough decision, you know, separating piles and things of that nature, because a lot of times people will screw up the piles and allow you to choose the right one. Okay, yeah, Storm, Tide, Leviathan. God, I can't talk tonight. Leviathan. It's an 8/8 with Island Walk, and all islands are, you know, all lands are islands. In addition, it costs triple green. It cost blue. It costs 8. It's very hard to deal with. It also basically shuts them down and gives you a guy that's just gonna beat the crap out of them. So you gotta be careful that you don't have anything across from you that has island walk, because then you might get punched in the face. But it's really good at shutting down the ground guys. Switcheroo is very good if you have a crappy creature and they have a bomb ass creature. And as you can see, you get a dragon, I'll take it, and I'll give you my little turtle. Okay, Tower and the Sky Summoner is really good if you can protect it. It gives you a 2/2 Drake every time you cast an instant or sorcery. If I opened it and was in blue, I would be playing it and then try to build around it, because repeatable free 2/2 blue Drake creatures with flying, nothing wrong with that. Okay, and then Talrun's Invocation, 2/2/2 flyers for 4 is also very good. Evasion is very key in this format, and I think it's fantastic. A little slow, but imagine having Tolerant out and then playing this, you'll have 3 2/2 flyers for 4. That's, you know, wishful thinking, but still very good. Tricks of the Trade. I think it's a very good card if you want to sneak in a win there. It's also decent in racing if you can put it on a fat guy and make them unblockable. It is a little expensive, and it opens you up to getting your butt kicked if they have removal. Excuse me. Unsummon, nothing wrong with Unsummon. Remember, it takes the creature back to their hand. It also knocks off any enchantments, any equipment they're wearing, takes off any counters they've gained, things of that nature. Usually a very good trick. I would play that. This is a guy I really like at common, Vildakin Entrancer. He mills 2 cards and he has a huge butt. He does cost 4, but the fact that he can continually mill and usually is very hard to die or get killed is very solid. Plus, he's common, so you could pick up 2 to 3 of these, plus some of the Jace's. Let's scroll up. Sorry, I don't want to miss. Mind Sculpt, and with Jace, that's a solid mill plan. Void Stalker is a card that I think, if he didn't have 1 toughness, could actually see play. He basically shuffles away their best threat, and it does cost 5 mana, and it has to live. But I think he's pretty good. You can also block with him, and then, you know, shuffle away another attacker. So he's got some uses. I kind of like him, but I'm not sure he's going to be that great. Water Courser, a 2/3 for 3 is always fine, and then you can make him a 4/1 if you use his tap on island ability. You could do it twice and it won't kill him. If you do it 3 times, you effed up. Okay, and then Welkin turn is really nice. A 2/1 flyer. It can only block creatures with flying, but it is a very good aggressive blue flyer. And then Windrake is also solid. So blue obviously has a ton of really nice flyers and things like that. I think blue's pretty deep. White seems, in my opinion, a little bit deeper at first. Obviously, that will change in time when a clear contender comes out in M13. Next up is black. As always, thanks for watching. Please check out my other videos, and please subscribe.